This is going to be me all day. It's just like losing this link every 2 minutes. It's just like so dumb because the thing is you can't reconnect. Like I cannot reconnect fast enough to make sure that the YouTube link doesn't go down. And it looks like Twitch is still not going. It's like by the time I notice that it has gone down, it's too late. Like I cannot, like, because the other thing too is it doesn't seem to just resume. Like I have to stop the stream and then start it again, and it's like, no, 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 no. And then it does that for like several minutes. It's like, you're not allowed. And I have no visibility into why that is. It's just, and it's worse. It's gotten like significantly worse since. What the fuck is, how many times? So again, the thing is like, I don't even know if I'm like broadcasting on Twitch right now. Like, it's just a black screen. Okay, wrap cache. This is the thing. It's like how, like, you know, this happens for 2 minutes, and then I gotta get up and do it again. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay. Still no Twitch. Jesus Christ. I find these like web apps are just so janky. Like they're so busted. Like YouTube is busted. Twitch is hella busted. Like it's just so busted. Streamplace gets a pass because it's like brand spanking new. And like even that, like it's, things are not. It's not a big deal. It's like, oh, the CSS is funny in places. Like, so what? That'll get fixed. But like the fact that like Google and Amazon have infinite money and they are like, it's just their interfaces are just like hot dog shit. Okay. So I guess we should look up like what are the conditions? I'll just put this here for now. What are the disqualifying conditions? Cache. Routing inbound requests to a cache. The client. Yeah, okay, that's not. Proxy to the order, rejecting. Just going to try again with Twitch. I don't understand how you could be so broken. There we go. Jesus Christ. That had like took how many retries to get that going? I think what I'm just gonna have to end up doing is use the other Ethernet thing as much as I don't want to, because the thing is that's gonna mess up the damn DHCP. You know, it's gonna change the freaking IP address, and like God knows what depends on that IP address being which it is. I don't want to have to find out. I mean, I guess it's sort of like theoretically possible that, you know, there's like the ISP could pull it, you know, just on a whim, but my experience is they don't do that very often. I don't think anything depends on it, but it's like I don't want to poke the bear, as it were. So looks like, is that head? Head is cacheable, get is cacheable. Duh. And then everything else. Head is cacheable, get is cacheable, post may be cacheable, and everything is not. Okay, so we'll just put that in there. I don't actually understand why. Okay, so just sort of like ANA HTTP methods. Safe idempotent. Well, that's handy. Like report rebind. I don't know what that's. 5842. What are you? Dav of what though? Binding extensions. Bindings. Bind methods creating multiple bindings to the same resource. Binding. That's handy. I guess. Nothing uses it. I am like almost certain that freaking nothing uses that. Update redirect graph. Hooray. This is all friggin' fun stuff. That would actually be like kind of rad, frankly. This is the thing. Like part of the reason why I made like Intertwingler is because there's all of this spec in like HTTP related specifications that like do all sorts of really cool stuff. But like, oh my God, implementing them, holy crap. Like the implementations for some of this stuff would be like insane to try to write. Because it's just like, you can't control, you can't have that same or that adequate level of control. So, yeah, like, okay, MK redirect graph. What is, that's more web dev. I'm sure there's like a freaking ton of stuff. It's funny thing about web dev is it's sort of like, if you've ever tried to implement WebDAV, anything WebDAV related, like CalDAV or CardDAV 2 or whatever, or the actual versioning stuff in WebDAV, like, it made a lot of assumptions. It made a lot of assumptions about, like, how stuff was going to be in the future. Like, it was like, oh yeah, this will totally be a thing in 10 years. Nope. Like, yeah. What is that? ITF HTTP BIS W body 14 URA. What are you? Oh, you're still safe method with body. Oh. Safe method with body. That's interesting. What have we here? Query method. Request target the enclosed content safe and idempotent manner. Yep. And then respond with the result of that processing. Holy shit. That's freaking awesome. This is something that I had been considering. Like, I was trying to figure out. Because I had this idea with a post, like with these functions, but there's a query method which is safe and if it's safe, then it's idempotent, because idempotent means you do it once, and then if you do it a second time, it's as if you just did it the one time. So, people have determined that there is a demand. That's freaking awesome. Query method. That rules. I'm gonna freaking. First of all, I cannot stand this version of it, so I don't understand why we don't just do. I think that's right? Yeah. Does that have the terminal on it? I'll just... It's very strange that they haven't decided where their stuff goes. Anyway, I'm actually also glad too that okay, that this is interesting to me. I was just looking for something like this. It's basically like, it's like a way for HTTP to say, post, here's a request body with arbitrary stuff in it. And then it's like post, but the response is okay. So I want to see though, okay, obviously caching. Is cacheable? Yes. Okay. Yeah, this freaking rules. I am very, very happy about this. Happy that I discovered, I Columbused this. Okay, so you own range requests too? Dude, okay. What is the accept query? Accept query contains a list of, okay, response header field. Okay, so yeah, basically the response is saying, like, this is what we're allowed. That's fine. That's awesome, because, yeah, you're basically, like, what it means is it's a cacheable post. That's what this is. Query method. 22, 26. That freaking, that, I am so cribbing that. Actually, I'm going to put this in here. Query is cacheable. Pretty much everything else is not cacheable. Let's go back to... Okay. What else do we got? 9666. I don't care about most of this stuff. 4918. A lot of this stuff is like the like fully abandonware, like WebDAV versioning stuff, which actually would be kind of interesting to implement. Like, I would totally participate in a revival of WebDAV with JSON control stuff, like JSON request stuff, JSON LD rather, because when you look at the chatter that goes, like, it's this XML stuff that is like just barf, and of course, I mean, the thing is it came from, like, WebDAV came from the like hot smack in the middle of the XML era, and it's like it's so hard to implement. Like, I implemented a WebDAV file driver. Like, basically you can mount it like a folder. Like, you could just mount the website as a folder on your computer, which is what WebDAV does. Like the vanilla basic WebDAV, that's what it does. And so I implemented that, and that was fine, except it didn't work in Windows. And it turned out the reason why it didn't work in Windows was because, and this would have been, Windows XP at the time. This is 2010. And it turned out that it didn't work in Windows because whatever was parsing, like, they were not taking the XML payload from the prop find request and putting it in a proper XML parser and parsing it out and determining what it said. No, they were clearly using regexes or something like that, and they were not actually parsing properly this stuff, because I couldn't get it to work. I always got like TCP dump, like I'm dumping the freaking, the chatter like over the standard thing, and I'm like, why does it work with this and it doesn't work with mine? And it turned out that it didn't work with mine because of the white space. Or it was like some elements were not in the right order or something like that. And the second I fixed that, it worked. And so that is the kind of dog shit implementation that you just end up getting with just XML stuff. You get like people like, so that was in the Windows. I mean, I don't know if they fixed that. The Mac one is not as nearly as ridiculous. But that stymied me for like days and days and days. I had no idea what the hell was going on with that thing. But I eventually got it to work. And the way that I got it to work was like literally serialize the freaking request and then like regex out the leading white space, and that fixed it. Ridiculous. Anyway, okay. Yeah, these like link. It's so funny because you've got these requests, like a link request, and then there's like another one like redirect ref, which is again more WebDAV stuff. They should just star which ones of these are WebDAV and which ones are not. Anyway, so I mean, you can kind of tell just by looking at which ones they are. ACL. See, these are like potentially useful things. Like if you can like interface at the HTTP level, like that would rule. But again, like how you implement that is so freaking hard. So like, and it's just because like what's on the other side of it is just some random shit, right? Like it's going to be some, so, it doesn't surprise me that like a lot of these request methods just sit fallow because like there's like the actual way, like stuff like a link, a link request method. Like how do you even interpret that? Like on the server side, like sure you can, but like how do you actually implement it? I should say, it's not how do you interpret it, but it's like it's just going to be basically like arbitrary, like how you actually do that. So Anyway, so I think I have my answer for the most part. Well, let's just take a look at this search. Search method request body. Yeah, okay. Oh yeah, this is just. It's funny how there's a query and there's a search. So that's a 5323. What is 5323? Web down. That is. What is merge? I'm sure that is the actual versioning. That is the DAV, the AV part of WebDAV, the and versioning bit. Anyway, okay. So yeah, I think I have my answer. What is pry? We should look at that. Hello. Oh, that is a HTTP2 thing. That's weird. Prior knowledge. PRI. Priority, frame definitions. Priced, okay. So this, the preface, connection preface. Okay, so that's just HTTP2 stuff. Fine. Okay, so I think what we can say then is query is cacheable. Look that up. Just about nothing else. So I will actually just oops. So that's pretty easily disqualifying. Obviously the cache headers. So cache specific headers. Now, I'm gonna have to look this up, but I'm just gonna make that a space. Actually, I'm just gonna actually do that so that makes the red so that I remember to put it back. So cache specific headers, I'm gonna look it up actually. Handling application response. Handling a serving style responses validation. From the specific calculating age, calculating heuristic freshness. I want the explicit. Calculating cache keys. Vary. Oh yeah. We're gonna have to deal with the very. Responses overview cache operation. Delta seconds. Probably that overview cache operation. I mean, we can probably just like read this off for the most part. Proper cache operation preserves the semantics, blah, blah, blah. Caching is entirely optional. Feature of HTTPs assume that reusing the cache response is desirable, blah, blah. HTTP cache requirements are focused on preventing a cache from either storing and not reusable. response or reusing the stored response. Yeah, okay. Cache keys, information the cache uses. Choose response. Kind of request method. Target URI. Yeah. Retrieve. Method determines under which circumstances. Blah. Multiple responses for the request target. Yeah. Most cache is disconnected. We can blah blah. Storing responses must not. Okay. Must not store a response to the request method as understood. Response. It's final. Section 15. That's a. Oh, I'm sure it's a freaking. Yeah. Status codes. Final. Yeah. Okay. Certain requests can have multiple associated. Okay. Information from exactly one final response. Right. I guess that's like also possible too that like the can you store so there's like no cache and no store, so yeah, anyway, we'll just cast. Okay, assume collect the response. Let's add store the response in the content addressable store only if the it is eligible to cache. Right. So let's go back to this. So we're gonna have to like compute. Response contains okay. Must not unless caches. Must understand cache directive. That's wild. If the response, right? Okay. Like, again, you get a 206 back. There's a whole again like a whole bunch of stuff like you can say like 206 is a range response, and so if you so there the standard range is bytes, but it doesn't have to be. Like you could have like extensions like on the ranges, and you could have like a range is whatever you want. A range is your like a range could be arbitrary, it could be variable length, it could be all sorts of stuff. So that's wild. Like imagine just implementing that. It'd be freaking crazy. So the cache is shared. The private response directive either not present. So the cache is shared. Private directive is either not present or allows a shared. Private response. Modified response. 5227. What does that mean? Private controls where. Oh no, wait, I guess the cache is private. What am I saying? I mean, strictly speaking, it's shared. but it's a content addressable store. So like it's like, oh, like you got this response like that's private, like, but it's also the same as what everybody else got, then whatever. Right? Like if you have a key, which is freaking cryptographic hash, and then you have the blob that's associated with, and like that came out, you know, of a confidential thing, you know, whether Alice got it or Bob got it, it doesn't matter, right? Like it doesn't matter if the you know, it's like, you know, Alice chose the color red, Bob chose the color red. Like, okay, like this could be secret information, but like Alice doesn't know that Bob also chose, like, you know, the cache knows, but you know, they can, so these objects are these, yeah, the objects are like de facto private, but they are, you know, like you don't have to know that the thing came out of the store, or the thing, yeah, was mapped to, like, you know, this response just so happened to have this cryptographic hash attached to it, kind of a thing. So I mean, this is simple enough. You just, I mean, you're just gonna have, you know, what comes out of the store is whatever you put into it, I guess is the point. So there's only ever one copy, and that's kind of the point of using a content addressable store. Is there's only one copy of the content. Cache extension can override any of the requirements. Well, that's actually good to know. Public, private, expires. Okay. So, cache specific, and well, of course, pragma no cache. Cache control, no cache. No store. I think that's. Actually, what are the cache, like when the cache, or the request? Where are we again? Okay. Storing incomplete responses. Hell no, we're not doing that. Combining partial content. Jesus Christ. Again, like the like extreme complexity of that, like, just hurts my brain to think of it. I mean, it's one of those things. It's, again, it's like, it could be cool. Like you could do maybe some interesting stuff with that, but like, freshness. What? Freshness light. Calculating age. Saving stale responses. Validation request. Handling or receive validation request. Handling a validation response. Responses with head. Validating stored responses. How about just like where the request is coming from? Cache controller used to caches. Blah blah blah. Proxy, we don't care. Cache directives. Request directives. Okay, that's what we wanted. 521. Following along at home. Max age, max stale. Request directive indicates that. Only use store. That's interesting. Gateway timeout. That's another interesting aspect of it too. Okay. Whatever.
Is there a pragma header still? Pragma, Jesus Christ. No, there's not. I want to take a look at the older one. Pragma. Do you have it still? Finish control. Expect host. $72.34. Obsoleted by 9111.
You'd think that like they got rid of pragma, but you would think that, or they ostensibly got rid of pragma. It's not in here. Oop. That's not what I wanted. God damn it. There's 911. How did I get two? Anyway, okay. So they have pragma in you? No, you don't. Do you have pragma in pragma? Maybe you do. What is this 9111? So is it pragma is just fully as a result deprecates. Okay. Pragma is officially deprecated. It should be like, I mean, it should just, what I should really do is I should just like rewrite the request. Because like one of the things that I had in mind, or have, you know, in mind for Intertwingler is like, again, these like request transforms in here. So like you've got stuff coming in, whatever, trucking along. You can rewrite any part of the requests just with a handler. And so one of the things that like I could see happening, for instance, is to clean up the requests. Like, so like, cause like that's pluggable is the other thing, is that the I mean, shit, it's also cacheable, because it's like, if you got a request coming in and the request has like this exact freaking fingerprint, you know, literally bit for bit, this, or, you know, once you've normalized it, rather, that like this request is equals this, then you can actually short circuit a whole bunch of code if you do that. And so, you know, so that's an attractive proposition, I guess, is what I'm trying to say there. So, anyway, I'm not going to do that right away because that sounds hard. Well, it's not hard. It's just sort of like, it's not, let's just say it's not a priority. You know, it's, but that would actually be really sweet, though. Like, because when you think about it, like, you get the request, you can, the other thing too that you got to take into account is that there's like real fast like ASICs and stuff for hashing like bits. And I mean, crap, I mean, it probably ships, like, you know, your CPU these days probably has a freaking coprocessor for like SHA-256 or something like that. So like, you know, you could just like, I don't know, like just register, pluck it out of a register. Anyway, so let's say that you know, you have a, like an HTTP request like comes into your server. It's immediately hashed. Then it is normalized. And then so the request comes in. The request is like whatever, man. Like the request is there's so much crap that comes in. Like who the hell knows what it is? But like okay, your request is normalized. And well, the other thing that's going to do too is that's going to determine like what frickin' like any attempts to like fuzz or do weird shit to your endpoint like or your edge, like that's going to detect that for starters. So request comes in immediately hashed, normalized, hashed again. Now you've got okay. You've got the raw bits that came in off the wire, hash that. You have the normalized bits that you've passed through a bunch of filters. Okay, that's you've got an association now between those two things. Now, anytime you see this, you can see that. You can map to that. And then like you can actually like as long as you so anything that comes after that, you've got this cryptographic hash of the request that you just made, like bit that's been normal. So you one to the normalized, boom, okay. And then you got another one that that maps it to the response. So that's like bam, 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 like insanely fast, like short circuiting of like anything that's like cacheable in that regard. And you're just using like, and you're just using cryptographic hashes to map them all, and then that can all just be looked up real fast. So that is like in my brain as a thing, and I'm sure there are systems that do that. I don't know, like, I mean, if not, why not? I guess would be my question. And the other thing that's kind of cool about that too is that a lot of systems are going to like a lot of like requests that come in are going to like bucket and normal, like they're going to, so like you will be able to have like a siphon or like a like a something that diverts off. So like here are all the weird requests that we saw that were not they weren't spec compliant, or they were trying to hack us or whatever. So you can sort of divert like all of the requests that are dodgy and do something, process those on the back end or whatever you want to do with it. I don't know. It's not my business, but so yeah, that's kind of something that I just had to have in the back of my head, I guess. So anyway, that we're not there yet. We're still trying to figure out like, okay, how no cache, no store, max age, all that shit. There is like e-tag if none match, that kind of thing. Let me just this. Oh no, not this, but if match, if match. Another validator. Sending a validation request. So what is a validation request? Like, what do they mean by that? Oh. Cache is one or more stored responses for requests you cannot serve any of them because they're not fresh. Chosen. Can you use a conditional request method? Conditional request mechanism. So we can just get rid of that too. We don't need it anymore. But conditional requests. If match, those are for e-tags. If match, if none match, if modified since, if unmodified since.
This stuff, like, again, when I'm thinking about implementing this stuff, it's like, oh my God, it's so hard. When to evaluate. Precondition fail missing. Not modified or useful. Successful reforms are the same. Yes, not modified. Precedence of preconditions. So it sounds like what needs to be like the precondition stuff. So that's going to actually have to get handled by the actual response handler in question. Accept ranges. Let's check this out. Range units. We're not doing, this is why this is tough. So range unit token, range unit registry. Ooh, intended to be extensible. It's just like, I mean, I'm sure somebody must have done something with it because like, I'm sure like somebody must have done this and they must and it's actually not entirely clear to me because like, okay, let's say you have you actually trick out your range units and you've specified like record or something like that. Like let's imagine, excuse me, Moa, that you've got like a response body that comes back and it's JSON and it's got, square brackets, let's say. And it's like, do you make it syntactically? I mean, presumably you make it syntactically correct, but like the difference is like that, like versus, what's it called? Bytes. It's just like it's bytes, and it's like, I do want to mess with some of that at some point. Like I actually. Especially with the content addressable store stuff, like I actually do want to be able to it would be really interesting to be able to define things in terms of like subsets of byte ranges of each other. So like if object A is inside of object B somewhere, then you could basically effectively say they're the same thing. This like the range that's inside, like, so the part that's inside here, it's just like there. It's like you could define the object as being, like that's actually useful information is what I'm trying to say. It's like, okay, like you got a content addressable store, you got a blob in the content addressable store, and then you got a blob inside that blob. Like you've got a blob like just in the middle of it somewhere. And it's at an offset and it has a length. And so like in the way of saying is like, oh, these two things are like equivalent. It's useful information because what it means is that you don't have to store them both because you can just derive. And the other thing too, you got to remember about content addressable stores is they're immutable, right? There's no such thing as updating something in a content addressable store. Like that's not a meaningful concept. There's only add and delete. And even delete is a little bit, hedgy. It's not quite. It's not something that you want to be doing unless that there's nothing out there referring to it. So anyway, the range units have just been a curiosity for me for like a really long time. And we're not going to try to implement, content range, but I actually want to see if anybody has defined special range units. I doubt it. Content coding, transfer coding, forwarded parameters. I don't know what that is. Preferences. Preferences are also super interesting. The prefer header, very interesting. There's some very interesting stuff you can do with that. That's also interesting. So like there's a safe preference. Like at the HTTP level, don't give me anything that's going to trigger me. Like, that's what that means. Interesting. Yeah, okay. So there's nobody's done this. Nobody's gone and they've made a range or a, yeah. I'm actually surprised. Like, I'm surprised there's not like entry or like record or something like that in the context of, I mean, I guess you would still need to define that because, like, again, you know, a user, imagine the, well, you know, you could say text/CSV has a well-defined idea of what a record is, right? But like XML or JSON, absolutely not. Like, you can, because like, and maybe we need to check this, but maybe there's a parameter on the JSON, what's it called? There's a parameter, maybe there's a parameter in the JSON MIME type that says, you know, like, oh, this should be a object, or this should be an array, or this should be a scalar. I don't know, because I haven't looked it up. I don't feel like doing that right now. Well, since we're here, actually, frickin' whatever. Let's just media types. That was so hard. Why did I do? Anyway, JSON application /JSON RFC 8259. They gotta get their freaking act together. Okay. Data tracker, doc, HTML, RFC. What did I say? 8259. JavaScript object parameters. No parameters. You guys, seriously. See, that would be useful. Is if there was a parameter that said, you know, the media type, like application /JSON, like subtype or whatever object, you know, or subtype or parameter, like, I don't know what you would say, like root, or whatever, or, you know, object, array, you know, number, string, true, false, null. I think those are all of the things that JSON can be. Yeah, that's too bad. You'd think that, I don't know, who knows? Maybe somebody thought of it. Maybe I need to block you on. It is very, very hard to moderate people on Twitch. It's like you've got to like get the freaking. But that's the only activity I'm seeing. It's fine. I don't need activity to be validated. I just need. Apparently, I needed a liter of coffee. So we're just going to go back to the code, or the not yet code. There is C9111. What was the section number on that? Calculating. Sending a validation request. Validating stored responses, compiling partial content, storing responses and caches. Storing responses, storing over your cache. Storing header and trailer. drifting responses. Okay. Must not store response to request. We read all that. Not a cache extension storing header and trailer fields. Okay. Must include all received response header fields, including unrecognized when storing a response. No cache private cache directions arguments to prevent the storage of header fields. Header fields are specific to the proxy. May store trailer fields separate from the trailer fields. Jesus Christ. Must include all received. Some field semantics require them to be removed. I'm going to guess set cookie. God damn it, you guys. 761. No. What? Connection permanent. Well, yes. Okay. Keep live TE transfer. Yeah, you don't get those back. Via. That's a dumb. It's like you must store all the things. I don't actually think you do. I mean, maybe you do. Connection header field. Header field. And the fields whose names are listed in it. Okay, are required by 7.6 to be removed before forward. This is maybe implemented by doing so before storage. Okay. Likewise, some field semantics require them. This is because you go and you look at it. Require them to be removed before forwarding the message. So, like, one concern that I have obviously is like set cookie, right? Like that's obviously. Actually, you know what? I bet you IANA has an HTTP header registry and then whether or not they're supposed to be cached. So let's actually go and look. Oops. IANA HTTP header registry field name. Whatever. Structure type. I know that's handy. There's a lot of headers. A lot of headers in the old registry. Dictionary priority 9218 extensible prioritization scheme. Okie dokie. All right, we're not gonna. That's handy. It's handy, but it would even be handier if you said cacheable or something like that, or whatever. Connection option token. So proxy connection. Keep alive TE transfer code. Declare it away. Okay. Connections up when a field of connections use supply control information. How about an example? Never appropriate as connection option. Connection header field applies send a list of control options. When a field side connection is used to supply control information for a must list the corresponding field name. Yeah, who does that? Like, okay. Note that some versions prohibit the use of fields. Such information intermediaries must parse or receive connection header field before the message is includes but is not limited to. Should remove or replace fields. Intermediaries should remove that are known to require removal for forwarding, whether or not those appear as a connection option. Blah blah blah. Must not send a connection option corresponding to a field as intended for all. Never appropriate. Connection options. Okay, hang on a second. Connection option. When a field aside from connection, blah blah. Aside from connection, use supply control information for or about the current connection. Oh, got it. Okay. So, like, what it's saying is it's just metadata, like, about the connection itself. So, obviously, it's not going to have, like, it's not going to, like, have it, like, any information, or, like, it's just not going to be relevant. That's what I mean. It's just not going to be, you're not going to have, all right. Okay. So that's okay. That's totally fine. They are known to require removal, whether or not they've appeared in a connection. Includes, but it's not limited to. That'd be really nice if we did have an exhaustive list of those. We don't always get what we want. Okay. So let's just go back and take a look at that. Okay, RC9111. Try to match address. So that's actually kind of fine. I think, like, you know, I'm imagining how I do this. Like, I was originally gonna do, yeah, like, I was originally gonna do the cache metadata stuff, like, as part of the actual main store, but, like, that I think is dumb, and I'm not gonna do that. RC9111, whatever. Note all response headers. Oh, I know what I was looking for. Dumb. I was looking for set cookie. Set cookie 2, 6295. God, you guys, you're freaking. They all have to get their, or 6265. What am I saying? Okay. Data tracker, doc, HTML, RFC 6265. Obsoletes 2965. We'll just say that. Oops. Bookmark that because why not? And then we're going to say, well, we're just going to, like, pour over it quickly. So cookie and cookie, syntax and semantics, cache. Does not preclude. Origin server can include multiple set cookie headers. The present cookie or set cookie header field does not preclude HTTP caches from storing and reusing. Does not preclude. Origin servers, user agents may. Does not preclude HTTP caches from storing and reusing. Well, what? I mean. So what? I can see that. Like, I mean, I can imagine a scenario where you would send a cookie along with a cacheable response. Because, like, cookies are not inherently for, like, authentication or something like that. Like, they're not inherently, you know, you can theoretically, I mean, cookies are a bastard thing anyway, but, like, they are not necessarily. Now, I should remark that, like, in Intertwingler, the cookies are. I mean, actually, I don't think Intertwingler does anything with cookies right now. All that stuff, it gets the cookies get added by the thingy on top of it, by the through a transform, actually on another server. It's actually not like I gotta say, like, I hadn't looked into JWT, and I gotta say that JWT is freaking cool as hell. It effectively affords forwarding authenticated responses, like, over, you know, just over the wire. So, like, I have a server here on the internet, and then I have, like, the actual dev server that's got the code running on it. This thing sets a JWT. Whatever. Actually, I guess I'm facing that way. So, you know, the server on the edge can set a JWT, so it shoots cookie out the other end, and it sets a JWT, sends it downstream to the origin, and the origin can interpret it as it sees fit. And I guess actually that's where Intertwingler can, like, deal with the JWT, and then it just sets it for the what's it called, guy? It sets it for the request. What's it called? The request record. That's what I mean. So that, like, the actual user, you know, identity is accessible to the internal, you know, thing. But, like, if it's reverse proxying, like, some other microservice or something like that, it just forwards the JWT down the line. Or, you know, it can unwrap it and then rewrap it or whatever if it needs to. But you know, whatever. It's not a big deal. Okay. So does not preclude. So I'm just sort of, like, getting a sense of, like, what needs to actually happen. I think what I'm going to do, like, the plan, and I'm going to have to figure out where this goes, and, like, it's probably going to be its own guy. It's going to be its own little module. Because it's just going to do the cache, like, the metadata. So it's going to be the key, like, how do you identify the thing, and then from there it will, like, it'll, you know, what I'll do is I'll just, like, compress the headers or something like that. Like I'll just, yeah. How am I going to do that? Yeah, like I mean, chances are, like I guess, because like I mean, HTTP headers are eminently compressible. Like I'm just gonna do the same stupid key value store trick. Now there's there's Redis obviously is a thing. At this point, I'm going to say I don't really care whether it's Redis or not. But you know what I might end up doing is I might end up like sort of coming up with a unified interface for that. I went and I wrote a this vocab, this cache metadata vocab. I don't think I'm going to use it because I was gonna stick this in like in the RDF store with everything else, and I don't actually think I'm going to because there's gonna be so much thrash in it. Like it's gonna be constantly adding and removing stuff. Like why would I? And it's gonna and this is never gonna be as like querying this is never gonna be as fast as just querying like a fully optimized key value store. I'm using LMDB for a couple of other things, so I'm just gonna like roll my own little LMDB store, and it's gonna have the keys, and it's just gonna have the compressed, and it'll just be fine. it'll be fine. And that way, yeah. Okay. So I think I'm getting like a clearer picture of like just what the frick this is gonna be, how this is gonna exist in the world. Where are we with those RFCs? Do I need to put anything in here? I'm gonna go back here for a second here. Not all responsible. Metadata CF RFC 911. What was that? 3.1. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. 3.1. So what I might do, so I'm just gonna play this out in my head. If the BLOS comes back, reassemble. I'm thinking like the cache itself should like it so like it should be a module. It should. Do I want to just make this a cache? I don't know. Hang on a second. That's it for the coffee. Extremely jacked over here. What time is it? Yeah, it's almost 4 p.m. Yeah. So you could imagine, like, you know, cache.store, you know, rec dot. This is Ruby, by the way, if it wasn't obvious. Something like that. This is going to need probably this. Or that'll just be the last. Let me just see something actually. Okay, good. Oops, that's a semicolon, not a colon. That's kind of, you know what though, like, you don't even have to do that because there's no resp, just, that's the thing. Do I want to make the cache? This is the question of the day. Is do I actually want to make the cache like yet another handler? Other sort of indeterminacies are like, how does it go? Like, you know, okay, so how do we issue retrieve? How do we resolve? If the blob does not come back, well, if the blob doesn't come back, then we know that it just doesn't have it. So like, that's the thing about the cache metadata may so it's like if blob doesn't come back, invalidate the cache entry. Because like what that means is that it's just not there. And it's like, who knows why it's not there, but it's not. Oh. Doi. Just a minute.
Somebody's asking me for something. Okay. Is there like a Garfield comic where the like coffee reaches out and like of the cup and like punches him in the face or something like that? Like, or was I like hallucinating that? Good old 1980s. That was 40 years ago. Maybe not quite 40. Why does everything gotta be slow? Okay. So, if the blob comes back, so how do we resolve the blob? Submit blob endpoints. Blob. Well, so one of the things that's going to have to happen. So like Intertwingler, which is the application server that I've designed, like this sort of way that it is like a microservice bus. Like that is how I characterize like sort of on some level. Like it yokes together a bunch of microservices. It runs stuff over them. It deals with like authentication. It deals with URL mapping, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, so the way that I have designed Intertwingler is to like do as little as it can get away with in this sort of central engine. And the idea is that it just maps like theoretically reverse proxies to microservices that actually do whatever stuff that the core, like that basically wouldn't make sense, outside of the core engine. So it's like anything like that has to do with content is a handler. Anything that has to do with transforming content is a handler. Anything, and that's going in and out too. And so there's basically what I'm trying to do is hive off as much of the serverness of and the idea behind that is eventually what I'm going to do is once I've got a stable design sort of sorted out, I'm going to write it in something fast like Rust or something like that. And then the way that you would do interface with it is just with these handler things written in whatever language you want, and then it just reverse, you just run it as a little serverling, and it reverse proxies to your thing. And so what's going to need to happen for that is something I'm calling a handler manifest protocol. And what that entails is a handler manifest protocol. This sort of idea. Oh my God, Jesus Christ, is the idea behind a handler manifest protocol is basically it's a way for the handler to advertise what's on it. And so what the idea is the handler advertises what's on it, and then the bus or the engine effectively just collates those addresses
into its own sort of like central registry of resources. And so that is vapor right now. Like I have not implemented that. I don't even know what it's going to look like. But the bottom line is like the idea that I'm sort of thinking about is like, let's say that you're a web developer and you're using Intertwingler, but you don't actually have to implement anything other than a handler. And then that's assuming that like the handler doesn't already exist. And so you're going to implement the handler, and then you're going to put this handler, like you're going to implement the handler manifest protocol that will tell the engine like what your microservice does, like what your handler does. And so that's, and by what it does, I mean what addresses are in the microservice, like what addresses does it respond to, and what what's it called? Handler, the manifest, and then what request methods? Did I say that? Resources and request methods, basically, and then other stuff like whether it is like what like content types, like that kind of stuff, like what it has. So you could imagine like content type and language, I think, whether it compresses. Yeah. Anyway, that's kind of the thinking. Like it's just sort of like it's just a way to tell. Like it's a something that you just weave into your to your microservice, your handler, Intertwingler handler. So an Intertwingler handler is just a microservice with this. It conforms to the handler manifest protocol. Now. So the idea behind so what I want to be able to do though is there's certain things that are they're going to need to be special, basically. Like there's certain aspects that are going to need to be special. One is the target for the content addressable store. So, and that is. So like you could, for example, like, okay, like if I have the URL stem that's like /.well-known/ NI/, then that corresponds to RFC 6920. And so that is registered in, that's in the registry of stuff. And so if I say, okay, but now, well-known NI, and then that, so that is actually like a way to resolve the NI URI scheme to like actually something that you can, so you can say, well, well-known NI, dot or slash. I think just like if it terminates in a slash, then you can sort of assume that everything underneath it, it's just sort of use that kind of convention, the sort of like containment conventions that everybody sort of understands. So that so that's fine. And you could imagine like a bunch of people having a bunch of things that have these resources that you could. There's going to be sort of like some kind of priority, some kind of. I don't really know how that's going to be negotiated yet. It's fine. We don't have to worry about that quite yet. But one of the things that the content addressable store is going to need to advertise is the resource that you post to put a new thing into the content addressable store. That is going to have to be determined. Like that is going to have to be, and there needs to be some way to signal like to the engine, I am the thing that you post to, that you know, and the idea behind that is you could use any content addressable store. It could be federated, it could be on its own box, it could be, you know, whatever. It could basically be like the equivalent, you know, analogous to Redis kind of a thing. You know, it's like it's a network service that you connect to. Like, does it have any, you know, is it, it could just be on its own bank of machines or whatever. So you could sort of imagine an architecture where you have like just like you've got all of your bulk blob storage in these content addressable stores that is like its own hyper optimized thing. And then you just connect to it over boring ass HTTP. This is a thing you can do. And then you can, you know, so what the Intertwingler engine doesn't care. Like it's like, do you use RFC 6920? Do you have something that I can post to that will, you know, that will store something in this, you know, abstract blob storage, the content addressable store? You know, yes, awesome, okay. So, and of course, we don't care what that URL is. It could be anything, as long as, so the question is like, how do we, you know, how do we resolve the blob submit resource? Yeah, so now the question is like, how do we, what do we, let's go to this. So what's that going to look like, right? Like imagine this is coming through like handler manifest. So it'd say that, you know, it's in the manifest. And it's like blob endpoint, blob post endpoint. And another one you could like, so the thing is whenever like you come up with something like this, it's like, okay, what else is like that? Like, is this unique? And the answer is no. Like say, for example, Sparkle endpoint would be like another kind of a thing. And there could be, I don't know, WebSocket endpoint. Gateway. Endpoint. These are just sort of things that I'm kind of like imagining. Because like, just as for instance, like one of the things that I'm sort of imagining, like one thing that I would really love to do is like trunk absolutely everything through HTTP. So like WebSockets is a great example of this. So another one would be async maybe. Like job runner, whatever. We don't really know how that's going to work yet. This is something that I just sort of have to sit down and think about. Like ideally, like consider something like WebSockets. So like WebSockets, just it's another protocol, right? It's not HTTP, and it's like it uses a different thing. And now WebSocket, the thing about WebSockets is bidirectional. I mean, there's also HTTP 2 and 3 do their own deal, but but like, let's just sort of imagine that we have this generic interface. Now, like, so you've got this menagerie of targets, of endpoints, of just, you've got these handlers. Each of these handlers have like at least one URL that responds to at least one request method, and it goes into the manifest. The manifest gets collated in the engine. This is Vapor. I'm talking about Vapor right now. It's fine. Now, so like you could imagine there being like certain special ones, right? There's certain special endpoints, URLs in particular, that are like for special things. And so the blob post endpoint, like the thing that you post a blob to, would be one of them. Because the thing is, it doesn't know, right? Like it doesn't know where to go. So you have to advertise to it. Like, okay, we've got a blob, we've got the the blob post is a special address in the cloud somewhere, right? It could theoretically be on another machine, right? That's part of how this works. And don't get me talking about server-side request forgeries. We're not there yet. Again, Sparkle endpoint, a WebSocket gateway. So, like when you think about, like, you've got this web server. The web server receives requests and then it responds. But you've got this address space where, and of course, does it make sense to have just one WebSocket? I don't know. Like that's going to have to be figured out. Like I'm going to have to figure this out like probably sooner than later. And then there's stuff like async jobs, so like if you want to fire off, something that you don't care about getting the answer to right away. I don't know if that's just going to be one thing, because what's kind of cool is the prefer header, and I just had this open and I don't know. Yes, I do. Okay. So you got this respond async preference in the prefer header. So what you would basically do is when you do the request, like it shows it here, right? So you could imagine that there is an endpoint, there's a URL for some kind of a function, some kind of a service, some kind of a thing. But it is sensitive to a prefer header that says, you know what, async is fine. Don't worry about getting me the result to this. I'll come back and check later. And you can do that. Same thing as like the return representation versus this is like a really, really cool HTTP feature that I intend to take full advantage of. So I'm sort of imagining, I'm going to go back to the drawing, wherever that is. There it is. So what I'm kind of imagining, actually, there was another drawing which is different. I think that's it. That's it, yeah. This is an older one. Similar design. Oh, you know what? I think I have an SVG. Yes, I do. Okay. This is a very, very similar design to like what actually is going on in Intertwingler and like sort of more or less is gonna be. So like you see this guy down here, this job queue thing. Does it actually have a? Oh yeah, so it is. Okay. So like I'll give you an example. Like let's say that I wanted to make like an RSS reader, or yeah, I wanted to make an RSS reader. So like I have code that goes out. It'll go out to the gateway, and this would be one of those things, a data service, like an RSS feed would be a data service. But like I need to invoke that somehow. So I could, for example, I could like blah, 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 come through here, gets resolved, blah, 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 goes through the business logic, hits the job queue. Or I could just come straight in and I could hit the job queue directly. Because like if you give the job queue a URL, you know, then it, oh yeah, there's a whole bunch, these are all linked. Neat. Okay, if you give the job queue like a URL, then that means you can like post straight to it, or you can tell it to do something, right? It's directly routable. But it could have a, like, but then the question is sort of like, take for example, like what about the problem of what's it called? Scheduling, right? But the thing is, it was like if it has a URL, right? Like if the what, like let's say everything that it can do has a URL, right? Then you just need to know what that URL is somehow. And if you're using, you know, REST, like HADOS, whatever, I don't know how you actually pronounce that because it's, I don't know if anybody does. But if you can know the identity of it, or you can find the link, you can find a path to it, you know, and then of course you have some description, which we do, of like what it does. Then again, you've got this very nice unified interface that like, it's got the diagnostic thing, send this thing right away. It's got like, you know, so then it's just a question of like, okay, like how do we represent like what a schedule, like what a recurring or like a delay, you know, either do this on the regular or like pull at this interval or like, you know, try this again or something like that, like that kind of. So then what all you need at that point is you need like something like RabbitMQ or whatever the new hotness is in that department. You could even fob it off to that if you wanted to. Or, you know, you could just have like a thin proxy in Intertwingler that just fobs off to AMQP. But AMQP does not have the scheduling stuff. So you need some kind of a state database that has the scheduling information, you know, when to go get it. And then there's some, you know, you probably need logs as well. So you could just hook right into the logging infrastructure if you want, if you had that. So the point is like, we want to make it so that like every possible thing that you can do has a URL. And then the question is, like, can we uniquely identify? So like, it's going to be an interesting situation. Say, for example, when you have the sort of blob post endpoint, right? Like, what if you have two? Like, let's say you boot up Intertwingler, and oh my God, I just realized I didn't set. I didn't go here. This I need a better. I need maybe a Stream Deck or something like that, so that I don't, like, I can have it like a thing lit up and be like, this is the thing. Because like I'm looking, the problem is, when I look at this, it's white. So I just, whatever, I don't think in my brain. And then I look at this, it's also white. Oops. Anyway, so as I was saying about this job queue guy, you know, this is, you know, this I would not separate out anymore, or maybe I would, I don't know. Or you would just call it part of the business logic, actually, now that I'm looking at it. This is old. I don't know how old it is. It's quite old, though. But no less like the actual sort of core of like how Intertwingler actually functions. But you know, it's a very, very similar design. But the idea is, so I guess what I would sort of say is maybe the job queue thing, like this was sort of like, this is my idea, like this is going to be like AMQP, you know, and then you can plug into, you can just sort of do, you know, like AMQP stuff with it. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. This is the thing, is that like at this point, like you could do all sorts of stuff, but, you know, my sort of, where I'm thinking, like the core sort of design, whatever you want to call it, philosophy of Intertwingler is that like everything has an HTTPS, whatever. It's got a web URL that you can hit and it'll do the thing. And it might have different behavior. So like, say for example, this prefer thing, right? Where are we here? This guy. Like you actually might have, oh no, wait, that's, okay, never mind. Then you would actually have to do prefer async. I was gonna say, what should really happen here is a respond sync as well as a respond async, so that you can actually have the default be async. But neither here nor there. Anyway. This is, yeah, I'm really quite, like I'm sort of getting, I'm going to actually review this video because I end up talking about a whole bunch of stuff that, that I haven't really thought out prior to this. So, you know, we're cooking along. That's fine. But I think that, where do I want to go? I want to go back to the drawing. And I also want to go back here for myself. So, again, the question is, how do we define the blob guy? How do we define the blob post endpoint? And I think the answer to that is unknown at this point. I mean, one thing that should be possible is, because the basis, like the other thing too is also I want to be able to like configure it hot. So the basis for defining this, like you could imagine, like you've got your thing, you direct the engine. So like you're interfacing with the control stuff for Intertwingler through the web. You're like actually like you've got some control panel that doesn't exist yet. And you say, and the other thing too about it is, and actually, you know, this hasn't even been defined. So like, I'm not too fussed about it because right now it's just pulling stuff straight into the same process. That's just, it's the same language, same process, but eventually we want to be able to have different language, different process, different machine, you know. Maybe that's just it, right? Maybe like, so like because one thing I do not have right now, and I'll just have to fake it up, is the actual manifest. And if I say, oh did I crash? No, I did not. It's weird. I stopped moving for a second, and then there's a delay on all of these screens. So I was like, did I crash? So like, you load up the or you instruct it that there is a new handler to integrate. So what does it do? Is it you give it the URL? Say for example, like you give it the host. You give the host name and port, of the handler. You don't even have to give it a URL because the thing is, you don't know what URLs are on there. It does an options star, which is great because it doesn't. There's no URLs. You don't know. So you goes options star. And in the payload, and I think you might actually say like prefer representation. So option star, prefer representation, accept header, and then it just disgorges the manifest. Like that's the sort of idea is the handler will just disgorge the manifest. And you just hoover that up and you put it in your storage. And if you're the engine at this point, you hoover up whatever the thing said, and you put it in and you just integrate it into your storage. Now, what that entails is like you have to be able to say like, okay, like what is the actual address of, this. So like, where is this found? Again, what machine, what port, where is this address of, or where is the, so you've got the sort of and then there's the durable and the routable identifiers that you got to kind of sort out. But that's another thing that I have to figure out. But you could just say like first come, first serve, right? You say you attach this handler, the handler has the thing. And so we just basically need a way to express like I am the unique, this particular thing. You could say maybe it's an instance of a class. You could say that, or you could say, yeah, you could say that. You could say like, maybe that's probably what I'm just going to end up doing, to tell you the truth. I'm just going to say like, it's an instance of this service class. This class just happens to be like blob. I don't love that. But it's easy, it's well defined. And I don't see like an obviously better solution. So where I would do that is I would do that in this vocabulary. Vocabs. Intertwingler. I would write that into this class. And that looks like sure, what do we even have in here as a print form instance? Okay, instance. Instance of percentage instantiate handler. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's, I think, what I'm going to do. I'm going to just define a class that says that this is the thing. So, I think that is a resolution. I think. So what that means going forward, so what I'll do is I'll come up with like the identify or the way to uniquely identify the the post string target. And then I will, so we've got the posting target. I might end up changing that. I don't actually really super need it to be, and then the cache metadata module. DB, Jesus Christ, learned it right. And that all together, so that's a standalone module that I can write and test. This is just going to need some code. The other thing too that's like handy too is about this, like this posting target thing. So every handler has access to, actually I'm going to think about that. It could have access to the resolver. Actually, that's a good question. I don't know. The one thing that's going to be necessary to figure out is like cross, because like if you like put it this way, is like you've got the like front thing here that actually takes the edge request. Then you got like some reverse proxy thing here, and then it comes back there like, and then it comes back, and then you've got this sort of Ouroboros of ridiculousness that you don't necessarily want to do. So I'm gonna have to figure out like what does sub request look like on delegated things. I mean, it's possible. We'll see. Anyway, I think it has been ticked over to just 2 hours just now. I'm actually surprised it stayed online. I think I am going to call it for now. I haven't actually eaten anything all day, so I'm going to go and do that. But thanks for sticking with me while I figure this crap out. Sayonara.